शन्नो मित्रश्चं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तदा वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 Now we are in the middle of decoding this response to the objection that was raised earlier. And what was that objection? That Brahman is an agent of knowledge. And how did this person come up with the idea that Brahman is an agent of knowledge, the Purva Pakshi? Because of the word Jnanam. Jnanam, which is the, which is formed by the dhatu Jna plus Anam. Anam is a suffix which is not very clear what it means. It could mean knower, that's fine. It could mean known, object of knowledge. It could also mean means of knowledge. So, depending upon the context, it becomes clear. And so, therefore, jnana here means that it is, it could become the knower. So, the word jnanam, as soon as you say, then what is it? Then it is jnata. This is what the objector talked about. And so we are we are in the middle of, we have just started looking at the reason why this cannot be the case. Why is it that, why is it that it cannot be Jnana Karta? Now, why is that so important? So, like, supposing we say, so what? So, what if Brahman is Jnana Karta? What will happen? Then, then it will become finite. That's what will happen. And so, even though sitting here, we may think that this is not such a bad idea for Brahman to be a karta, an agent of knowledge, meaning the knower. It can be the knower. So what? Well, there is a very big so what there, because here, if it is an agent of knowledge, then it becomes the knower. Then it becomes finite. Why? Because if it is the knower, it is not the known. If it is the known, it is not the knower. If it is the knower and the known, then it excludes the means of knowledge. And so the last word defining Brahman, Anantam, will be rendered useless. And so, therefore, we have to take this objection, and we have seen the objection in detail. Now we are seeing the response to this objection. Therefore, we have to take it seriously. So, let me read this. And so, if you're trying to follow, it is on page 269, and you just, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down where it says 23. Now, that's where we are. Sarva bhavanam cha tena अविभक्तदेशकालत्वात् काल आकाशादिकारणत्वात् निरतिशयसूक्ष्मत्वाच्च न तस्य अन्यत् विज्ञेयं सूक्ष्मं व्यवहितं विप्रकृष्टं भूतं भविष्यत् भवत् भविष्यत् वा अस्ति तस्मात् तु सर्वज्ञं ब्रह्म. This is where we are at. तस्मात् तु सर्वज्ञं ब्रह्म. Every, this is why this is why this is Brahman. This Brahman is all knowing. This Brahman is all knowing without being a knower. And then we are really in the middle of, he's in the middle of understanding or unfolding the nature of Ishvara. This is not an ordinary passage. And that is why it takes time to understand that, because Brahman here is Sarvagnyam. Sarvagnyam means all knowing. All knowing is Bhagavan. All knowing is not consciousness here. Ah, all knowing means the cause of everything. And that's what is being pointed out. So consciousness endowed with the ability to create, the ability to sustain the creation, and the ability to take it back. That consciousness endowed with Maya Shakti. In other words, what did we do last a few times ago, few classes ago? Upadhi. Maya Upadhi. So Brahman, along with the goddess Shakti, becomes Bhagavan. Otherwise, there is no Bhagavan, there is no Bhagavatta there. And so this is what is being pointed out. So niyata niyat na tat na karanantara samyapeksham आत्मरूप नित्य आत्मस्वरूपत्वात् सर्वभावानांच तेन अविभक्त देशकालत्वात्. So he wants to now establish Brahmanah Sarvajñatvam, the fact of Brahman being Ishvara. In relation to what? In relation to this Jagat. In relation to this Jagat, because without this, you cannot discuss Brahman without the Jagat, because we live in a manifest universe. So you can't just sort of, forget the Jagat and say everything is wonderful and everything is one until a mosquito bites. Okay. Or some new things are there. Flesh eating bacteria. You don't even know you have it. Okay. And then what is that new thing now? Monkey pox. All these viruses. And so many things. And not to talk of corona. It's COVID-19, then it became COVID-20, then it is COVID-21, and COVID-22, half of COVID-22 is over. It's taking its time. Every year it's having new babies, new iterations. And so therefore this is, so Bhagavan here means you have to look at the Jagat, because Bhagavan is non-separate from the Jagat, and this is what is going to be told. There is no Bhagavan which is not manifest as the Jagat. So Jagat is not outside of Bhagavan. And anything in the Jagat, starting with your own body, mind, sense complex, is not outside of this Brahman as Sarvajna. And then, supposing then that's why here, if you say for this Sarvajnam Brahma, Jnana Kartritvam Asti, maybe, maybe this Brahman is a Karta. After all, I don't know why they say she created the universe and then entered into the whole creation. We saw that quote earlier. And so the Sarvajnam means what? Sarvam janati iti sarvajnam. Knows everything. Knows means knower. Janate he kartru. Knower. And so knower means what? Then then there is a karta. Then there is a, then you have to ask him, Janati, what does Brahman know? And then Brahman desired, Brahman created something. And so therefore, this, this Jnana Kartritvam is there. The agent of knowing is there. This status is there for Brahman. And what do we say? We add as though to that. Then everything becomes very easy. We just need a little as though, what should I say? A little end of the sentence, as though, as though. If you say as though, then everything, yes. Bhagavan is all knowing. Brahman is all knowing, is the agent of knowing as though. And then Sarva Sakshitvam is the witness of everything, as though. And then, so this is why, because Maya Upadhitaha, because of Maya Upadhi, there is this as though knowership. The knowership is a superimposition upon that which is free from being a knower. The doership is as though superimposition upon that which is totally and utterly free from being a doer. Being a knower, being a doer, being a creator, being a taker, someone that takes back to the universe, being a sustainer, all these are roles that are as though aropita. They are aropita upon that Chaitanya, which is free of all those attributes and all those functions and all those roles. Why? Because that's why we spend so much time discussing Upadhi. And that Upadhi alone explains everything. It is Maya Upadhi. Maya Upadhi. And this Maya Upadhi alone, because of this Maya Upadhi, what is this Maya? As though. I don't think Maya is something real. And otherwise, then we'll have two parallel realities, Brahman and then Maya going side by side, creating havoc. No. Maya itself is an as though power associated as it were with Brahman. Where did it come from? Where did this Maya come from? Maya did not really come, because the thing is, if it is as though, then we are not really looking for something that is real. So if you ask for the origin of nothing, it's just like that. Where did nothing come from? Please tell me. Nothing came from nowhere, we have to say. And that's all there is left to say. So there is no origin of Maya, because it is avyakta, that which is unmanifest, and then that which comes to a state of manifestation. The origin, there is no origin, because it is not a parallel reality, or it is not come out of Brahman. It is a kalpita shakti. Kalpita means an as though imagined power and imaginary power. And so therefore it is an upadhi. It is an upadhi for that Brahman in the form of consciousness. So Maya Upahita Chaitanya. And what is Brahman here in the sense of Jagat Karanam Brahma Bhagavan? And what is the Jiva? Maya Upahita Chaitanya. Same thing. So the one that is surrounded by, embraced by Maya Upadhi. Oh, but Bhagavan is omniscient along with Maya Upadhi, and I, as the Jiva, am left wondering how to spell omniscient. Always I before E except after C. Well, what is this going on here? So if it is the same Maya, I should also be all knowing. I should also be everything. I should also be all powerful, almighty, all everything. But here, for me, I am left holding the bag of wondering how to spell Sarvagnya. And Brahmani alone is Sarvagnya. Well, what is this? Are there two different Mayas in operation? No, there are not two different Mayas in operation. Then what is happening? What is happening is that same Maya, we have the shadow side of that Maya, so to speak, in the form that which makes Brahman all knowledge, Sarvagnya, makes this one all wrapped in a cloak of ignorance. But that ignorant cloak, the cloak of ignorance is also as though, okay, also as though. And so, since that is as though, then there is nothing to worry. It can be cast off thanks to the Taittiriya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, all the Upanishads. Thanks to that, this cloak of ignorance can be cast off. So then I have to wear the cloak of Ishvara? No. The cloak of Ishvaratvam, Ishvaraness, Ishvarahood is also a cloak. That also is cast off cognitively through this study. So all that is there is this consciousness as I, as Ishvara. It's the same I. The I in me is the I in Ishvara, pun intended. And so, therefore, there is nothing that is outside of this Sarvagnya, outside of this Bhagavan. And so, then there is no, there is no Karana Karya Sambandha between the Jagat and Ishvara. Oh, but there is no cause effect sambandha. Ishvara is not the cause of the Jagat. Yes, Ishvara is the cause of the Jagat, but the Jagat being as though the causality is also what? As though. Understand? Ah. Because if you take this to be real, then we are really in trouble if you take this to be real. You can't take this to be real at all. And so the causality is as though imbued, superimposed upon that consciousness which is free of all causality. And so then, from the standpoint of that samsarga, from that standpoint of that, like the crystal with a japa kusumam, the crystal with a flower, what is that called? Hibiscus flower, and makes the crystal look red. The crystal appears bright red in color. When you take the flower away and the crystal appears as it is, no coloration at all, no coloration, no discoloration, nothing, not even, or maybe the flower left, if not a red hue, maybe a slight pink hue, nothing, nothing. The crystal is crystal clear. And in this, we understand something very important, that this status of being the cause is also an as though status. And so, therefore, it is free of causality. And this is important to, it is essentially free of causality. The cause is an incidental thing that comes and goes, and then Brahman gets endowed with the status of you are the cause of the universe, O Bhagavan, Sarvagnya, Sarvashaktiman. Like this, we can sing the praises. But this is a role. This is a role, and the creation is more of a projection of itself, of Brahman itself. It is not a creation. It is more of a manifestation and a demanifestation. And so, therefore, there is no jnana kartrutvam. There is no causality. There is no doership. There is no knowership. Because if you say, because this is the problem with many other theologies get stuck here. Brahman is the cause of the universe, and that cause is absolute. For us, the cause is relative. The cause is itself is as though. It's a status with regard to the appearance of something that we call Jagat, which cannot be established, which cannot be dismissed independently, which cannot be established independently. This dependent reality is called Jagat. And in relation to that, there is an as though causality superimposed upon, imbued from Brahman. And so, if this is taken to be real, then there will be the dosha, we'll run into the fallacy of what is called anyonya ashraya. Ashraya is dependency. Anyonya, mutual dependency, the fallacy of mutual dependency. Because if Brahman is Jagat Karanam, then it will need a Jagat to pass over and to inscribe its Karanatvam. So it will need a Jagat all the time. And then, and then the Jagat is dependent on Brahman. Already we know that. And then the Brahman is also dependent on Jagat. And then, furthermore, unless all knowership is there, it cannot create. And, so it cannot create. And unless it has created, all knowership cannot be there. This is another kind of an anyonya ashraya. Let me, unpack that a little bit. All knowing means what? It knows everything. So how can it know everything before anything has come into being? Okay? So only after it has created everything, then it can know everything. And then so in order to know everything, it should have created everything. And in order to have created everything, it should know everything. Because without knowing things, it cannot create. Without creating, it cannot know. Then we get into this anyonya loop, a mutual loop. And so so therefore, we have to take this all-knowership, omniscience, as Maya Upadhi. It's a form which is purely due to Maya. And then Sarva Sakshitvam, Sarvagyatvam, all these things. This is all Maya Upahita Chaitanya, Maya Upahitatvat, Brahma Sarvanyam Bhavati. Because of Maya, Maya here is like the red flower, Brahman is the crystal, and then Maya's coloration, the Brahman looks to be the knower, all knower, etc., etc. And then, like I pointed out last week, yes, Sarvanyam, Sarvavid, Yasyaiva Mahima Bhuvi. There is a verse in the Mundakopanishad. We'll come to that. We are studying the Mundakopanishad also. So we'll come to that. And then, so therefore, the Karanantara Savyapeksham na. So for this Brahman, there is no other, there is no Karanantara. Karanantara means what? There is no Karaka, there is no Karana, there is no instrument, there is no cause, there is no object, there is no subject, there is no instrument, there is no reason for why for this the Jagat is being made, and there is no possessive case, nothing. There is no dependency on what are called the various factors of action. And so, therefore, there is like the factors of action, object of knowledge, instrument of knowledge. All these things are not there. Why? Because it is Satchidatma. All of them, because even the Karakas are what? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam only. And so the Karakas are Brahman, totally dependent on Brahman. Brahman is free of all the Karakas. There is no Karaka outside of Brahman. And then, so Brahman doesn't depend on the Karakas. All the Karakas dependent on Brahman. So Brahman is what? Swe Mahimni Tishtati. It just revels in its own glory. It revels in its own glory. It abides in its own glory, which is what? Its own swarupa, its own nature. And because this is very interesting. Any one thing in the universe does not have a swarupa. It has rupa. It has nama, but not a swarupa. Because you look at anything. You take a flower. What is it that constitutes this flower? And then you point to the petal. Is this flower? No, 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 that is petal. Okay, then you point to the center of the flower. You show it like this and point to the center of the flower. Is this flower? No, 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 that's not flower either. Why is that not flower? That is the stamen. Okay, amen. Now what? Then what is flower? The flower then, is this? No, 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 that is stem. Is it this? No, that is leaf. Then what is flower? It is something all put together. You try putting it together. Then you will have a sad little thing that is sold in the stores. You know, sad looking flowers, silken flowers, and then what else? Crepe paper flower, silk flower, velvet flower. Not any of them come even slightly close to Ishvara flower. Not possible at all. This is what is the magic. This is Maya. Ishvara means Maya has to be there. This is Maya. It is magic. And so there is no Swarupa. What is essentially a flower? You will not be able to say. You will not be able to say. And like this, it is with the whole, any single thing in the universe. This is exactly how it is. This is exactly how it is. It doesn't have, any one thing has no Swarup. Because The flower Swarupa depends on so many things. It depends on petals, and then petal Swarupa depends on something else. And then you find that each and everything depends on something else. And then ultimately, nothing in this world has got Swarupa. And what is the only thing in the world that has Swarupa? Brahma. Brahman alone has Swarupa. All the other rest is you can take away the Swa, and then it's only Rupa, Nama, Rupa, Nam. Swa means its own Rupa. So it lends its presence. We keep saying this. We keep putting, using fancy terms. It lends its presence. It lends its sentience. This is exactly what it means. It lends its Swarupa to other things without undergoing any change and without really running out of the Swarupa. Because if you start lending your neighbors all the things in your house, soon your house will be emptied of furniture. Because when somebody comes, borrows a table, another one comes and borrows a chair, and then very soon you will be living a sadhu life. Your house will be emptied of most of the furniture. But that's not how it is here. Swaswarupa aparityagena rupantara pattihi. This is what it is. This is what is called, this is exactly what it is, what it means. How does Brahman create? Swa Rupa Aparityagena. Aparityagena, without giving up its own Swarupa. And sometimes it is, talked about as Swarupa Aparityagena. The Swa is put twice. The first Swa, its own, and Swarupa means essential nature. Without giving up its essential nature, what does it do? It Rupa Antarapattihi. Rupantarapattihi. Antarapattihi means it undergoes, without giving up its form, its nature, it as it were, takes on another form. So flower is what? What is the Swarupa of flower? Okay, from now on, whatever question I ask, the answer is Brahman. Okay, yeah. So, what is the Swarupa of flower? Brahman. What is the Swarupa of the river? Brahman. What is the Swarupa of this Akasha? Brahman. What is the Swarupa of Vayu? Brahman. What is the Swarupa of you? Brahman. What is the Swarupa of, anything? Even frightening things like snakes, pythons, reptiles, sharks, Brahman. Not just pleasant things, even unpleasant and frightening things. The Swarupa is Brahman alone. And so, therefore, you find that either you can say nothing has its own Swarupa in the Jagat, or you say that the Swarupa of everything that is here is in Brahman alone, is Brahmashraya. So therefore, this is what it is. This is the only way to understand, and the only way to see this. This is very interesting, because the only way to see this, this is not scientific. Please, keep this in mind. This is not some kind of a scientific fact, because people are Swarupa obsessed. People are origin obsessed. And this is how all research gets done. They want to go to the bottom of Brahman. Brahman has no parts, no top, no bottom, no sides, no limbs, nothing. So they want to go to the bottom of everything. What is there? Nothing is there. You come up with a big zero. If you try to understand Brahman as though you're understanding a scientific equation or some kind of conducting a scientific experiment, it will not work, because you are simply speaking using the wrong means of knowledge. Because science means it is deduction. Means what? Inference. One step inference, multi-step inference. Most of medical science is all multi-step inference. So many, that's why they have this double-blind studies with some groups are getting sugar-coated pill. That's all they are getting. They're just getting some kind of a filler. And then the other people are getting the real thing. But then, of course, before the study takes place, they are told that they will get a they will get a they will if they are a part of the control group, they will get the real thing later on. Then only they enter. Otherwise, they are not fools. Why will they enter the experiment? They will say, forget it. So then they will watch. They will watch the people just taking the placeholder, which is the placebo, and then they'll watch the group taking taking the whatever the experimental drug that is there, the medicine, and then they will, and even the people who are taking the medicine are divided into gender, age group, all these things. So the data is collected, and then they'll say, oh, okay, this thing works on these people, so there is no reason why it should work on the rest of the population. And then maybe the dosage needs to be adjusted, because even in the experimental group, so some people had these reactions, or these are the reactions, all these things. Now this is okay for science, because that's what it is based on. But if you use the same kind of parameters to come to some kind of a conclusion about Brahman, and do this, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. When people do this, there are these, what is that called? Consciousness study. Consciousness study. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Consciousness study. I mean, if you think it is the study of consciousness like we are doing here, okay, acceptable. But if it is some kind of a research, people have all kinds of meters. So sometimes they put one meter, some kind of a electric thing, and then it measures Brahman, and it measures some kind of a thing. This is not what we are talking about. This is not something to infer. This is not something to deduce. Those are all the wrong means of knowledges. It's okay for science to use those means of knowledges, but not for this, not for understanding Brahman. And so, what is underneath all these kinds of researchers? It is, you end up missing Brahman, because what is underneath is really Brahman. And then, whatever you see, is because of consciousness. You are the seer. Seer consciousness is, and that which is seen is not outside of consciousness. Seen consciousness is. So there's what else is there to infer? What else is there to go beneath and underneath? Nothing is there. So if you say pot is, flower is, Brahman in the form of pot is, Swarupa of pot is Brahman, Swarupa of flower is Brahman. No, Swarupa of pot is clay. Yeah, incidentally, yes, we say clay. But then if you keep going, we are just doing a shortcut here. Otherwise, if you keep going, Swarupa of pot is clay, and then the Swarupa of clay is molecules, then particles, and then you just go into the realm of quantum physics. And then there also you come up with a lot of question marks. So what we say is that only one thing in the world which has Swarupa, everything else only Namarupa. And that Brahman, that Swarupa alone is consciousness. And nothing can exist without Brahman. And Brahman as a substance does not exist enjoying the attribute of consciousness. That is not Brahman. Consciousness is Brahman. Consciousness is not an attribute of Brahman. And so therefore, the word Brahman itself, as we have seen, means limitless. Brihi, Riddhau, limitless. And so therefore, this is what is meant. Karanantara apeksham nasti. Karanantara savyapeksham nasti. Why? Nityatma swarupatvat. This is the hetu. Because it is always in the form of consciousness. What is this consciousness? You. It's always in the form of Atma. We are talking about the Swarupa of you. Nitya Atma Swarupatvat, it is in the form of Sadatma. It does not undergo any change, so it is cannot be the knower. Oh, if it is not the knower, then how come it becomes all knowing? That the same answer is given. Nitya Atma Swarupatvat. It knows without needing a head to hold the knowledge. That is why, the jiva is from the standpoint of the body, mind, sense complex and buddhi, upadhi. The jiva is what? Small knowing. Bhagavan appears to be all knowing. Why? What is the difference? The jiva is small knowing because the head is like a pin compared to everything else, compared to Bhagavan's knowledge. So basically, one is like a pinhead, a small bobblehead. How much knowledge can it contain? So if you are depending upon the buddhi in order to know, then the knowledge will always, 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 forever be finite, infinitely finite. Naturally, because how many things can you know? At the end of the day, if you make a list of how many things you have forgotten, then you will understand what is being said here. And then you will also wish you had forgotten all the things you had forgotten. That would have been actually very nice. Then you don't have to deal with feeling bad that you forgot all this. So this is exactly how it is. And so therefore, the when we talk about this issue, it has to be done properly. And so, therefore, how does it become Sarvagnyam? Without undergoing any change. Why? Because it is self-effulgent consciousness and it is all knowing without needing a head to hold that knowledge. We only know of knowledge which resides in the brain, in the buddhi, in the mind. That is the only kind of knowledge we know. So, our concept of knowledge is finite. And therefore, even if we talk about the I, even when we talk about I know, that's why we keep asking the question to make this very clear. We keep asking the question, are you here? Are you here means what? What is the answer to give? Yes, I am here. How do you know that yes? How did that yes come up? What was the means of knowledge for which from where that yes came? This is a very important thing. What means of knowledge did you use? Did you use pratyaksha? Did you look around and the eye came up and the eye said hello and then you used pratyaksha? No. Did you use anumana? Did you use any kind of inference? No. Did you use what did you use? Did you compare the eye to something else? No, because there's only one of a kind, there is nothing to compare. So, how do you know you exist? And because I know what? I know I am. And I know I am doesn't turn ever into I don't know I am. It is a knowledge that never turns into ignorance. That is why the Nitya Atma Swarupatvat means the Atma itself is all knowing. The I is all knowing. That's how we can make the equation Ayam Atma Brahma. The I is all knowing. All knowing how? You know, all knowing means it is not relying on a means of knowledge. So when you say I am, you're not relying on a means of knowledge. The I being evident to itself and everything being evident to the I. This is a very, very big thing because on this basis alone we can have Vedanta study. On this basis alone we can unabashedly say, I am Ishvara. I'm non separate from Ishvara. This is unabashedly we can say this. because it's all relying on this self-revealing I, the I that doesn't need to be revealed. And if the I doesn't need to be revealed, it is already known. And then there is nothing that it is all knowledge. How is it all knowledge? Because even when you complain, I don't know Greek, I don't know Chinese, what are you really saying? I know that I don't know. Ah, that's why you are all knowing. And then Pujya Swamiji had his own way of defining all knowing. He would say, let's first take the word all. All means what? Now, shall we agree, he would say, that all means the sum total of what you know and what you don't know. Can we agree that that is all? And all the students would nod their heads. Yeah, that's a very nice definition, Swamiji. It's wonderful. All means there are many things in the world that I know, that is included in all. And then the rest of the things that I do not know, that also together they comprise all. Okay, great. Now, do you know all the things you know? Yes. Do you know that there are many things you don't know? Yes. That means you are all knowing. He would just say it like that. And then the people would go away from the class scratching their heads. And, and it can't be so easy, but it is. How can it be so simple? Because it is there. It is staring at you in the face. Because when you recognize yourself, when we say I am without needing some kind of a proof, that itself comes very close to seeing Bhagavan, how Bhagavan knows everything without the need for a head. Here, the I is not reliant on the buddhi. It is not a product of the brain. It is not the product of the buddhi. When you say I am, buddhi doesn't come in the picture at all. I am, therefore buddhi is. And this has already been tried out before. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. That's what happens if you put Descartes before day horse. Okay, this is what happens. And you don't think, and then you are not dependent on your thought. You are thought is. You are buddhi is. You are mind is. You are memory is. And then forgetting is. Fear is. Anger is. It all becomes evident to me. Memory, forgetting, everything. Because that I doesn't need a place to stay and a place to, play. It is everywhere. It has anantyam, it is limitless, and it is jnanam, it is self-evident. And then when you say I am, that amness is satyam. This is exactly where we are going. And so Bhashyakara is prepping us to understand this by showing the nature of Bhagavan, and then, saying that it is, what is the hetu here? Why is Brahman all knowing? He says Nitya Atma Swarupatvat, because it is in the form of the Atma. And then further he says Sarva Bhavanam cha Tena Avibhakta Desha Kalatvat. Bhavanam, Bhavatiti Bhavanam, that which is called Bhavanam, that which has come out of something is called Bhavanam. Bhavanam means is Padartha. Sarva Padarthanam Bhavanam, the existence of all the things in the universe, what Akashadi Padarthanam, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi, iti elements. And then also other kinds of padarthas which have come out of the elements and elementals. These are all sarva bhava, sarva bhavanam, sarva padarthanam, what, all these elements, etc., all of them are called, bhava. Means they are, they They are all existent. Tena avibhaktatva. Tena means what? Tena brahmana. Tena means from that Brahman. Avibhaktatva. So all the things that have as though come out of this Brahman, the five elements and this body, mind, sense complex, all of them, plants, trees, everything, all of them. Tena Brahmana, from this Brahman, avibhaktatvat. Vibhaktatvat means separate. Avibhaktatvat means because of them not being non-separate. So they are not separate from Brahman. And then this is a very unique argument. This much we know that they are not separate. That's not so, that's not so unique. But what is unique to this particular Bhashya is that they are both, they are all the things in the universe are dependent on the time-space matrix. Deshakala, Deshakala, Kalatvat, Avibhakta Deshakalatvat. So, first Bhashyakara acknowledges that everything is in the grip of the time-space matrix. Vayu, and then Vayu can be tracked according to time, according to space, and then fire, all these things. Sound also travels in space. So, everything, you can track. And so this is, Tesham Bhavanam. So all the existence of these things depend immediately upon time and space. And then he points out, Deshakala Avibhaktatvat cha. Now time and space are not absolute. Thank God. Time and space are relative. And so this means what? That all these things come under the spell of time and space, all the things in the universe, and then time and space itself answers to Brahman, so to speak. Time and space itself is non-separate from Brahman. And so all the bhavas are not separate from that Brahman. And Brahman alone is, in Brahman alone they are, ashrita. They are as though, they are as though relying upon that Brahman alone. From that Brahman alone they are non-separate. Then all the bhavas that are existent are not separate from time and space. Time and space is not separate from Brahman. So, Sarvam Bhavanam Avibhakta Deshakalatvam Asti. So then in the Deshakala alone, all the bhavas, all the beings exist. Deshakala is also a being, and the Deshakala also is non-separate from Brahman. This is the, Tena Brahmana Eva Deshakala Avibhaktatvat. Itham Bhute Tritiya means the usage of the third case, which says that in the form of Brahman alone, time, space, and all the things that depend upon time and space exist. So nothing is separate from. Nothing is separate from Brahman. And so therefore what? Space is Brahman. And we are going with that same question answer thing. So whatever the answer, whatever I ask, the answer should be what? Brahman. Space is Brahman. And then what? And time is Brahman. River is Brahman. Sun is Brahman. Sky is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. And then so everything is Brahman. Nothing is different from Desha and Kala. Desha and Kala are not separate from Brahman. So everything is non-separate from Brahman. And then, so being the cause of Kala, being the cause of Desha, then what does it mean? It means that it is the Hetu, it is the cause of Desha and Kala. And since so why is it the cause of Desha and Kala? Because time and space are not in, for two reasons. One is because time and space have their being in Brahman, and then but Unlike buying a pot from a potter, some kind, if you go to some kind of a clay, some kind of a exhibition, and then the potters, these artists are selling their wares, and you purchase something, an object of art, because you like this vase so much. And then when the vase comes home with you, the potter does not come home along with their whole family. Ah, this is so this is the potter is the intelligent cause, and the material comes home. The material cause in the form of the pot or the vase in this case comes home. Correct? Yeah, but then with Brahman, it is the cause of everything because it is abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. It is the intelligent cause, it is the intelligence behind everything. Jnanam, that is exactly what it is. That the jnanam, how we are understanding this word to be, not the knower, not the known, not the means of knowledge, and not again not outside of the knower, not outside of the known, not outside of the means of knowledge. That which blesses everything without being any one thing. So it is jnana, it is satyam, it is existent, and it is infinite, it is limitless. And so this is how everything is. And so time and space are, it is the cause of time and space. Why? Because it is the intelligent cause, that which crafts something, like the potter making a artistic pot with the help of clay and a few tools, maybe some stencils, maybe some kind of carving things, maybe some paint brushes to pretty it all up. But then, that is there. And then what? Then we have the other thing, the other cause. This is called nimitta karanam. And then upadana karanam karanam is the material cause. And the potter has a idea of what is going to come out, and that idea is called nimitta karanam. When the idea comes in the form of that object, that is what is called nimitta karanam. In the state of any creative product that is produced locally, in the empirical world, the nimitta karana, the intelligent cause, and the material cause, the raw material, will always be separate. But in Brahman, it is one, because there is no other place for the intelligent cause to rest, and there is no other place for the raw material to abide. No other place. So therefore, it is abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. It is the intelligence behind the creation, behind, again within heavy quotes. It is also manifest as the creation itself. So that's why when you say flower is, what are you saying? Flower knowledge is. That's why Pujya Swamiji used to illustrate this very, very nicely, that every knowledge is up to the one more question. You say, what is this? What is this? It's a flower. Oh, wonderful. You are Brihaspati incarnate. But this is flower. Great. And then what? What is it called? Carnation. Now, why does it have these serrated edges? Whereas this other flower doesn't have those kind of serrated edges. I don't know. Why does the carnation come in these colors and not in those? I don't know. Why does the carnation not have fragrance, but the rose has fragrance? I don't know. You see, every knowledge ends in, we don't know, because we are talking of all knowledge. In fact, it is not a carnation at all. We have to add an in before that. It's an incarnation. It's not a carnation. It's an incarnation of Ishvara. Then, of course, then there is no problem. This is what is abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. This is what it is. It is just so fascinating, so wonderful. Everything, not just the carnation, Everything is an incarnation. That's what it is. And so the all knowledge rests in that particular thing that you're looking at. And when you look at it closely, there is a subject object obfuscation. And that's why you feel you're one with Ishvara. Every scientist is one with Ishvara. Every researcher is one with Ishvara. Because whatever that object one is studying, that itself, when you go deeply into anything, it is Ishvara. It's all Ishvara, nothing other than that. And so everything is, when you say flower is, the existence of the flower is non-separate from the knowledge that it expresses. So the existence in the form of the raw material is non-separate from the knowledge that it manifests. It has five petals, it has this kind of a fragrance, it has these kinds of colors, all these things. And why does it bloom in a particular time and not in another time? There is a reason for all that. All this, is an example. These are all examples of abhinna, means non-separate, nimitta upadana karanatvam, a causality that is superimposed upon Brahman, which it is totally free of being a particular, being either the efficient cause or the what's that, or the material cause. It is both the efficient and the material cause, but it is free of causality, because it is as though manifest as the flower, and it is as though manifest as the knowledge that is the flower. And so this is what it is. And then, so therefore, it is the cause of Desha and Kala also, same reason. Desha and Kala, time and space, the space and time, it is the cause, because it is, nothing is separate from that Brahman, and nothing is away from that Brahman. And that brings us to the next word. Why is nothing away from that Brahman? Niratishaya Sukshmatvat. Viratishaya. Viratishaya means that which cannot be transcended. Sukshmatvat. A subtleness, a subtlety which cannot be transcended, meaning the most subtle. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Kathopanishad and the Bhagavad Gita, we have a verse, which goes from the gross to the subtle. And then we have, how does that go? Indriyebhyah parapyarthaha arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhihi buddheratma mahatparah mahatah param avyaktam अव्यक्तात् पुरुषं परः पुरुषः परः पुरुषात्म परं किंचित सा काष्ठा सा परागतिः. So it goes from the sense organs, which are subtle, but actually which are gross, which can be objectified, to all the way to the Purusha, Brahman, Ishvara, which cannot be objectified because it is the nature of the one that is trying to objectify it. It's the nature of the one who is wanting to objectify it. That is the one that is there. Purushatma param kinchit. There is nothing subtler than Ishvara. And then what? So Purusha, the word is masculine. And lest you go away thinking Ishvara is a he, because in Sanskrit all the words are masculine, feminine, neuter. And so, lest you go away thinking it's a he, so immediately it says sa, there is a gender bender. Sa kashtha, sa paragati, sa paragati. She is the way, she is the destination. And so this is very beautiful in the Kathopanishad. Also in the Kathopanishad, there is another verse. Anoho aniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya jantoho nihitam guhayam tam akratuf pashyati vita shokah dhatu prasadat mahimanam atmanah. This is another wonderful verse that expresses what this sukshmatvam, niratishaya sukshmatvam. And what is that? Anoho aniya. smaller than the smallest. Anu parimana. Anu means atomic in nature. So smaller than an atom, smaller than the smallest of atom. Oh, this Atma is so small. I didn't know that. Mahato Mahiyan, that which is limitlessly big, no size, but subtle, because from the standpoint of being not being able to objectify it, it is subtle. Then where is it? Where do I find it? Atma asya jantoho nihitam guhaya. It is in the cave of the intellect. Cave means full of all kinds of vats of doubt and stalactites of distrust and stalagmites of resentment. That is the cave with some dripping sorrow, dank, dark cave. So that's where the Atma as Ishvara shines. And then, but how to see it? It's so dark. How to see it? You have to become Akratuhu. Akratu means sannyasi. Oh, I wish there was another way. I don't look good in orange. I have nothing against sannyasa. I just, orange is not my color. If you say that. Here we are talking of a mental akratuhu. Okay. Yeah. Somebody who is a sannyasi in the heart, in the mind, because that is the only kind of sannyasa really that matters. It doesn't matter if you wear orange and not have what it takes. So here, kratu means rituals. Akratuhu means the one who doesn't perform rituals. That is a sannyasi. And why doesn't the sannyasi doesn't perform, does not, why does not the sannyasi perform any rituals? Because the sannyasi has nothing to gain. And the rituals are all done because there is something to gain. I want something, that's why I do the rituals. The sannyasi doesn't want anything, so no rituals, meaning akratuhu, meaning vairagya. So you have to have a sannyasi like vairagya in order to see the Atma. Akratuhu pashyati. And so two conditions are given to be able to see the Atma, the subtler than the subtlest, that which is niratishaya sukshma. The first qualification is what? The one we just talked about, which is vairagya. Oh, that itself is hard. Need we really discuss the next qualification? Absolutely, yes. The second qualification is Vita Shokah. Vita Shokah means Vigatah Shokah Yasmat, from whom all sorrow, all traces of sorrow have run away, have departed. Yes. Oh, but that is a jnani. Bingo. Yes, that is exactly what we are talking about. A jnani can see the Atma, the one who knows the self, and the knowledge of the self removes sorrow, and so and removes removes, more importantly than the desires, removes the desiring person as identified as I, queries and removes the wanting person as I, and reveals the nature of the I to be totally non-wanting. And so, such a person, Vitashokaha, Pashyati. How Pashyati? How does the person, quote unquote, see this Dhatu Prasada? Dhatu Prasada here means Guru Prasad, from the grace of the teacher. The grace of the teacher is not some kind of, something that's being dispensed. Okay. Grace of the teacher means the ability to be able to connect to a teacher who teaches, the ability to sit and enjoy the teachings. That itself is the grace. That is grace. That is the grace that flows. So the river is always flowing, and when you're able to come and drink of that cool water and immerse yourself in it, that is what is called grace. It is seen as a threefold grace. It's a grace of time and space, because why did I reach this teacher at this particular time in this particular space? It's not an accident. It is Daivanugraha Hetukam, meaning it is what we call Ishvara Anugraha, Ishvara's grace. Then we talk about Guru's grace. Sometimes it's also talked about as Shastra's grace, but the two are the same because the Guru is just talking about the Shastra. So then reaching the teacher, and then what? And then the ability to sit and study, that itself is a great, and the Guru accepting one as a disciple, that itself is a great grace. And then finally, the final grace is Atma Anugraha, my own surrender, my own receptivity, my own non reactivity, the dropping of my own resistance to this teaching is a great grace. And so, Dhatu Prasada means that is what through that grace the person comes to know the thing that is subtler than the subtlest and comes to know that. And so, here, Niratishaya Sukshmatvacha, because it is subtler than anything you know. Like even in the world, we have degrees of subtlety. So, if we take, like, for example, water, you take it out of the freezer, it's a block of ice, grows. And then after a while, you come back, you leave it on the kitchen counter, and then it has become a little more subtle. It has blended with the kitchen counter. You don't quite see it, you have to look for it, you have to touch it. Then after that, let's say it's a hot day, and then it has simply disappeared. Where? It is still in the space in the form of vapor, water vapor, but it has disappeared as it were from sight. It is subtle. It's subtler than the liquefied ice. It's subtler than the solid ice. So the subtler the object is, the more pervasive it is. That is the maxim. So now the subtlest, the subtlest element in our space, in our whatever Jagat model is which one? Don't say Brahman now. Space. Okay. Yeah. So the subtlest one is what? Space. And then space pervades. Where all does space go? Come on, what a question. Where all does space not go? That should be the question. Space is everywhere. Space manages to go where no one can go. Like even inside the black hole or in the center of the galaxy, there is space. So that it has gone there also. It has gone everywhere. Now, space pervades everything. Therefore, it's called Sukshma Akasha. So, Akasha is Sukshma. And then what? So, it is Vyapaka. It is pervasive. But does space pervade Brahman? Not at all. It's the other way around. Brahman pervades space. Therefore, we say Brahman is all pervasive. All pervasive. So it's a sarva vyapaka. And that's why that Niratishaya Sukshma means it is all pervasive. All pervasive. So because, you have spaces, pervades more than air also pervades, but it is less than space, like that. And so, therefore, this is so this Brahman pervades Akasha. Akasha does not pervade Brahman. Brahman pervades Vayu. Vayu does not pervade Brahman. All these things, everything, all the way we have to take it like that. Brahman pervades this body, this mind, this senses. The body mind complex does not pervade Brahman. And so this is what it is. And so sarvasya karanam, desha kaladinam api karanam, etc. And then we say that nirastishaya sukshmam, extremely subtle, totally subtle. And then it says what? What's the next word? Avigneyam. Avigneyam. Na tasya anyat avigneyam. Before that, we have two words, I think. Vyavahitam and viprakrishtam. So, because the avigneyam will take a little later, maybe tomorrow, but so vyavahitam means separate. Viprakrishtam also is a synonym of vyavahitam. It means paroksha. very removed. Because in all this pervasive argument, in the pervasive argument of Brahman pervading everything, it is very easy to get to the place of thinking Brahman has become space, has become Akasha, has become Vayu, etc., etc. Akasha has become Brahman. Brahman is not Akasha. And so it lends its presence all right. It lends its existence all right. It lends its knowledge all right. But then it hasn't become that very thing. It is as though manifest as that thing while being essentially itself. Therefore, vyavahitam. Therefore, separate from everything. Everything is Brahman. But for Brahman to be everything, it cannot be any one thing. So separate. It retains itself. And then Viprakrishtam. Viprakrishtam means not asangam, not at all associated with anything that it blesses, anything that it is as though in association with Viprakrishtam, Vyavahitam. And then what else? Natasya anyat abhigneyam kinchit asti. Tasya anyat, other than itself, avigneyam means unknown. Na, nasti is not there. Nothing other than itself is not there. Meaning, if you know Brahman, you are all knowing. You are all knowing. And then, so therefore, what? Because of this Maya Shakti, Brahman is everything. And then nothing is outside of Brahman. And so, therefore, what? Nothing is unknown. Other, there is nothing to know other than Brahman. Vigneya vastu means object to be known. Nirvigneyam, avigneyam means an object that is not known is not there. There is nothing to be known. Absolutely nothing to be known. And why? Because it's the secondlessly existent. There is not one Brahman, there is only Brahman. Kevalam, nothing to be, nothing else to know, nothing else to there, nothing else to have, nothing else to know. Okay, maybe now there is nothing to know. Previously, maybe there were some dinosaurs that have gone extinct, they should have been known. No, dinosaur also Brahman. And then, oh, maybe in the future there'll be something to know other than Brahman. Not really. Nothing to know. So that's why bhutam bhavat bhavishyad va kinchit abhigneyam nasti tasya anyat. So whether we are talking of the past or the present or the future, and this is exactly in a way it is reminiscent of the Purusha Sukta. Purusha evedagam sarvam yat bhutam yat cha bhavyam. This all this is Purusha. And then Purusha means Brahman, Ishvara. And then Yat Bhutam, that which was there before, Yatcha Bhavyam, that which is there now, the Chakarat, because of that extra cha there. And Yat Bhavyam, that which is to be, the future. It's all Purusha only, it's all Ishvara. More, there are two quotes to illustrate all that we have talked about today. We'll see that tomorrow. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Thank you.